Welcome, friends, to the Pick Six podcast. We are actually in the same room together here. First time. Yeah, Dustin is in here visiting Seattle, so we took advantage of the opportunity to hang out a little bit and maybe throw a video together in the same place at the same time, talking about cards at the same place at the same time.
Enjoy my crew. You take the card and put it in the sleeve. You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
And we're trying to do it on one screen in a little box. So we're going to do the best we can here today.
This is definitely sports card hobby content. We're sitting right next to each other, all nice and close and warm.
Production is really high, per usual. Production value.
We're gonna keep it that way. So, Dustin, one of the things I was going to talk to you, I wanted to talk about is that came to mind is I had a post on a collector group of mine, and I was asking a certain amount of money for these cards that I'm trying to sell because I'm trying to buy a card. Now, again, it's not about flipping. I think that's a big part of the conversation. I think comes up is like, okay, why are you selling the cards? Are you selling the cards because you are trying to make a profit or make extra money to go towards said card you're trying to buy? Obviously, that's always preferred. Or are you just trying to buy the card, sell it for more, and pocket all that money and not put it back into the hobby? I tend to think that most of us are buying cards. We change our mind, or a card comes up that we didn't think was going to come up. We had no idea it was going to come up because that.
Well, let me stop you there. I think that's part of the problem. Is it feels like there's always that card that's popping up. That's part of the problem.
That's true. It's always happening
for all. So I mean, for all of us. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree. I mean, I think it happens constantly. That's why we keep selling, and I think that's why the platforms keep making money, because you keep selling and you keep buying and you keep selling and buying, and that keeps everything moving. If everybody just bought and kept everything they bought, which I know some collectors like to do that, and I prefer to do that, but all of us with limited means can't do that, especially if you're going after cards that are a bit more expensive. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, okay, if you're going to sell a card and turn around and buy another card, I guess there should be some understanding on the collector side of, if you ask for the last comp, which sometimes might be your comp, depending on how rare the card is. And I got some kickback on that from another collector going, well, this is a collector group. In groups like this, we're trying to find a way to make it a little better for the buyer, because they most likely aren't going to intend to keep the card. Well, I can argue most of us say that, but then most of us also end up moving some of these cards. Some of you might not, but a lot of you do. So it kind of begs the question of like, okay, is it ethical for you to sell a card and try and expect to get as much as you paid, maybe a little extra, because kind of give yourself a buffer? I'm talking about $200 or $300 more. I'm not talking about on like a $3,000 or $4,000 card. I'm not talking, and that's relative to the price of the card. I'm not talking about a 50% markup to try and make a bunch of money.
Yeah,
but I don't think there's anything wrong if you have that card, especially if it's more rare. It doesn't trade a lot and sell a lot. I think it's okay for you to make money, and if the collector wants the card bad enough, they're just going to have to pay for it, and you shouldn't be looked down upon for that. I just thought it was an interesting question, because it was an interesting response that had me reflecting on it and thinking about it, and I thought maybe it'd be worth a conversation. And you can like really take this thing all the way out to comps, and people talked about comps a lot in the past, but what do you think? Do you think if I'm doing something like that, is that in your mind, it's the unspoken rules, these tribal knowledge rules, the tribal knowledge that people have in the hobby? Is that okay to do?
I don't know. I think that sometimes with these rules, it only applies when it's convenient for those people that are arguing for or against these rules. I'm kind of more capitalist on this subject when it comes to, hey, look, I mean, like, we're all spending a lot of money on pieces of cardboard, and life isn't fair, and there's not always going to be, everything's not always going to work out in your favor, my favor, your favor, or whatever. Yeah. But you're talking about, to get pushback when you're talking about a few $100 difference between a comp, even $500, even if it's $1,000 difference, if it's a really rare card or one that doesn't pop up, I don't understand why there would be, any sort of a pushback, because it's only worth what someone's willing to pay at any given second. So, if you paid, I don't know, $500 less for it a month ago or 2 months ago, I mean, prices are fairly volatile on the more rare stuff.
That's true.
It might be 5,000 one day, might be 7,500 another, and that's just kind of what it is. I mean, when you're collecting, and I do too, kind of more on the non-sports side, the really more rare stuff, but it's kind of like that. If it's a 1 of 1, or if it's an out of 10 or whatever, it pops up once a year, I mean, it's kind of like, you're at the whim of, whoever is selling that card and what price they want. I mean, if somebody doubles their money on a card in, a year, but you really want that card and you're willing to pay current market price for it, then, I mean, that should be totally fine. That's the game that we're playing. Now, if you're saying like, okay, we're working together as collectors, and maybe this is someone you've done business with before, maybe you give them a break, or they did good by you once, right, or something. If there's kind of more of a deep relationship there, then maybe you make a little bit of a concession. But if we're just talking about random strangers on the whether it's in a group or collector group or whatever, I don't get it. I don't see why that is would be pushback. And then, of course, it always turns around on them, later. Are they going to give you a break? Are they going to give me a break? Probably not. And
that's what I will. I always think like it's like that's that long-standing question. Is it going to be paid forward, and can you expect it? You can't really expect to be paid forward. I mean, your transaction is your transaction. Once that's done, that's done. And understandably, there's no expectation. Like, there's been some cards I've bought from some really well-known collectors. They're like, hey, I'm going to give you a deal on this. Just don't sell it for a couple of years, because you could probably go out and sell it and make more money on it. And I've acknowledged that, and I've actually honored that. And to be honest with you, those cards are cards I don't really want to sell anyway. Those are cards I want to hang on to. I got into them at a great price, and why would I do that? But there was that understanding and that sort of like handshake agreement. And I think there's a lot of that goes on in our hobby. Hey, I'm going to get you a deal on this card, or hey, I'm going to move this card. I think this was talked about at some point. Somebody's probably talked about this, but like you beg, borrow, and steal to get this person to sell you a card they didn't really intend to or want to sell. And they sell it to you, and then if you turn around and sell it like a month later, I expect that person to be pretty frustrated to see that, because they're like, wait a second, I probably would have kept that. You made it sound like you really needed that card, and now I sold it to you, and now you're going to turn around and sell it, and maybe even sell it for more and make money on it. That might even add extra, salt into the wound.
Well, and it plays back into the building relationships part. The second that somebody does that to you, then that's the last time that you'll deal with them in the same way. The next time they need a card from you, they will not get a discount. They might probably be paying more if you have something that they really want.
Right.
So if you're someone that operates that way, this is my grail. This is my grail. Please give me this card at this price. And then a month later, it's not your grail anymore. Nobody takes that seriously. You'll then kind of create a reputation for yourself as the boy that cried wolf, that, oh, it's another grail, Jimmy needs another grail, and needs a discount. No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way. No, that's true. It doesn't work that way. I think it's just really interesting. It's a really interesting thought.
I think it goes back to just talking about communities, like the little communities within our hobby. And there are really great folks, and there is great community, but there also is a lot of competitiveness. There's a lot of underhanded things that happen, and I think it's just part of the deal. But there's also a lot of, I don't know, it's a weird space. There's people that go off the rails sometimes too, that have had like good standing in this hobby, and then fall off the map and all of a sudden do crazy stuff. So it's a weird space.
Yeah, then you get on the card man's radar. You don't want to be there.
Yeah. I think I've been on his radar quite a bit over the years, but that's okay. I know Dan. I like Dan.
Yeah, Dan's a good guy. He does great work, and very professional and polite, and you got to love that.
Yeah, we banter back and forth. We disagree sometimes, and then we make videos about it. But yeah, it's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, Dan's a good guy. So yeah, that was the one of the topics, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I kind of feel like chat, come alive, tell us what you're thinking. Obviously, tell us about our awesome technology here as we're like squished together.
Yeah, clearly,
with this. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything, because this is this guy's channel. He invests the money in it, so if he wants to,
there's a lot of money invested in this.
If he wants it to look like this, and that's his prerogative. I'm going to go with it. But I think that it's interesting to get your guys' feedback. With like the last few videos we've had, it's been kind of fun to see what everybody has to say about the things we're talking about. It's been pretty lively, and there's been a lot of great discussion, a lot of great points, some things I haven't even thought of. And if it wasn't for some of you bringing it up, it's interesting. So honestly, I think it's all us collectors just talking to each other. Obviously, we're not super high tech here. We're just having a conversation. But your response to that conversation, your engagement in that conversation is actually really helpful, because it allows us to think about things very differently.
Speaking of, we had some really good feedback on the Wemby episode, where we were kind of talking about more or less opportunity cost. Does it make people operate differently. There's always a hype player. There's always a new player. And who knows, maybe Wemby has a 20-year career and everything works out. That's what we're hoping for. But, you know, when you're spending the kind of money that Wemby's cards cost, you know, it does kind of beg the question, how much money do you want in those particular players, any new player, any modern player that's, you know, in the last 5 years, it might be, you know, just starting out their career. How many of those players do you really want to have in your portfolio, your card portfolio, in quotation marks, compared to the GOATs or the, you know, the legends? Right. It's interesting stuff, really.
It is. I think that it's kind of like you talked about before, Dustin. I feel like you made a really good point. I haven't thought of it before. It's like having this anchor in your collection, where you have like a certain set of cards that are like really good cards, like your star, your Jordan star. That's an anchor card for you in your collection. I mean, even your Stephen King you just picked up. That's kind of, I feel like that's an anchor because it's so rare, it's so unique.
Yeah,
there's going to be a market for that, and I think that the star, obviously, a huge market for it. I'm sure you have a handful of the cards you're like, yeah, these are really, really strong cards that I feel like kind of hold up my other. Like I feel like I have a handful of really good cards, and the Griffey stuff I have that kind of holds up some of my Ray Allens that probably won't be these super appreciated cards, but they're fun to collect anyway, right? So you kind of have that back and forth of, okay, I want to have fun and collect. I don't want it to cost an arm and a leg, but also it'd be nice to have some cards that appreciate in value, sort of hold up the rest of them. So if some of them either go down a little bit, or up, you got these other cards that are kind of always slowly growing that are going to absorb some of that.
Well, we talked about it. You have, well, we all have, I shouldn't say you, but I use you as an example. You have your catch and release cards. You have your anchors and you have your catch and release.
Catch and release.
But I just did that with 2012 silver prisms. We talked about it. I bought like 5 of them and then I sent them off to consignment, all of them except for a couple of them that I wanted to keep, but there was just something else that popped up, and I'm looking at my collection. It's like, what do I, you know, really, or do I love these cards? Can I get these back? The answer is, of course I can get these back. So then I just kind of move off of it. It's always a card, though, too, when we're talking about this subject. It's like there's always a card that you feel like doesn't sell very often. You don't think that you're going to have a good opportunity, maybe at the price point or whatever. And so you end up having to make a move somewhere on it.
Has anybody ever used that phrase, catch and release cards? Have you heard that from anybody?
I don't know.
We don't want to become a meme or anything.
Catch and release.
Catch and release. That's Dustin.
Patent pending.
Patent pending. That's Dustin. I want everybody to know that right now. All the different, you know, we have a bunch of different monitor checks. We can look at ourselves. Catch and release was Dustin. He coined that. Catch and release. The cards you buy and you sell, because we all do it.
But I think that too, you catch, but you appreciate the fish when you're catching. You appreciate, oh man, I landed this big fish. But then, you know, you still love the thing, but you release it back into the wild. And that's, you know, I think that's a big part of what happens in the hobby. And but that's kind of part of the fun too. Do you get stressed? Is that kind of part of your fun when you, and I do this too occasionally. I've been trying not to do it as much as far as impulse buying, but do you get enjoyment out of, you know, okay, you bought, you know, let's use Ray Allen as an example. Maybe you have those Ray Allens for the next 10 years, or maybe there's some monster card that comes up and then you're able to, you know, kind of move out of those into that card. Is that part of the fun of your process?
Yeah, I think that
even if you might lose a few bucks, you know, on the sale.
It is. I think it's part of the collecting journey, and it makes it fun. If you just sit around and wait for that card to show up and to stack up a bunch of money, this is always the take I have on that. You start saving and putting money away to buy a card. I don't think the amount of money we need to have to buy some of these cards, you're going to look at that and go, okay, I need to use that everywhere else but this. I can't justify taking all this cash when there's all these other places I could probably use it that are more
psychologically it doesn't work. It works. Psychologically, even if you lose a few dollars on the sales, it still makes it better than having just having to save the cash, putting the cash aside, right, and then waiting for that thing. I think because you can buy another card. Yeah. And when you buy that other card, that card could appreciate over time and overcome and net out any loss you would have taken because it appreciated in value. That's how my collection, that's why I'm not upside down with all the losses I've taken. I've actually lucked out and gotten into probably 4 or 5 cards where like I've got big, and it's swallowed up any of the losses I've taken on as I move up. But I'm also trying to move into these bigger cards and the catch and release cards. If I do lose a little bit on them, the ones I do go and get that are bigger have been strong. And I've had a few wins that sort of factor in. And, I've said before, I've tracked it all. So I'm still in really good shape. But that's only because I've gotten into a handful of these cards, call it luck, call it good timing, whatever you want to call it, just learning and doing my due diligence. But now I have those anchor cards that have a good spot and a decent ROI built into them that kind of swallow up any of the losses I'm going to have, as long as I don't keep making those mistakes. So I think you keep doing that,
so long as you don't just go buy these, you're catching and releasing super quick, or you're not with a card that hurts you, and you go to listen to, recent comp stuff that Nick talks about, and we all talk about this in general. You get a really rare card and you buy it, and you turn around 3 weeks later and sell it. Well, now you have a new comp that's set up, and now you're kind of hurting yourself off, obviously, because you bought that, unless you bought it privately. But now you bought that, it's public, and now that's going to drive the price for the next one, whereas you could have had it maybe, so there is a benefit of holding. But again, we don't know when some of these cards are going to pop up for auction. It's like it's not like everybody, hey, by the way, in 3 weeks I'm going to be selling this card, and everybody look out for it. That never happens. And a lot of us collectors, we change our mind last minute anyway. Most of us do that. So there's never really a sure thing. So the only way to really have fun in the hobby and collect is to do the buying and enjoying it along the way, in case that card doesn't come up and you're not going to see it anyway. Now you've got some cool cards that you've bought, and you can also sell them, buy into something else that can make up for any loss versus cash. If you just have cash sitting on the side, it's not earning any interest or that, then it's just, it is what it is. It's a transaction straight across, versus having an ability to purchase an instrument or a card as a financial instrument, I guess, that could grow in value to recoup any of those losses. But again, it all comes back to the psychological. Having the cash in hand is like, no, I need to use this for all these other things, or I want to use it, or I should use this, versus going and buying a card. Something about selling cards, raising capital with cards to buy other cards. I think most of us do it, and I think it's just the way to do it, so you not feel guilty about it.
Well, and you're also, I think, positioning yourself in a good spot when you're buying quality sets and quality players. Like if we're using your Ray Allens as an example, they're really rare Ray Allen stuff, to where compared to maybe a modern player, where it could be volatile to where maybe the prices do go up on that modern player. But a lot of times we've been seeing kind of the opposite of that. And even when those players play well, that's the thing, is that the cost up front, like when these cards come out, is huge right out of the gate. So it's like your upside is just limited, it feels like, for a lot of ultra modern type stuff. Whereas if you're buying quality right out of the gate, then you're kind of just trading quality for more quality. I don't know, it just makes, and maybe and speak on the quality part, you feel good about your collection. So if you never sell the Ray Allens, if you keep those and you're like, these are awesome cards. So it just kind of works.
I think it comes down to the card, though. If the more rare they are, like some of the one-on-ones I picked up from a collector that, I asked him. I mean, it wasn't like he came to me or he didn't auction. He wasn't trying to sell them. I went, hey, will you sell these to me? Hey, will you sell this to me? It wasn't like those are the kind of deals to me that are so much more meaningful. They feel more like these are like foundational cornerstone pieces in my collection, because they're one of ones. So those are just rare in itself. And I got them from someone who wasn't looking to sell. And it was like, okay, you're a fan. It was like that, what we talked about earlier. You obviously want these, you're a fan, you're a collector, or you're getting into this person or whatever it is, because Ray Allen's kind of a newer PC for me. Okay, I'll sell you these. Now you're not going to sell those because of that, and because of the fact that they're rare. So yeah, those are. But the other types of cards that are more frequently sold, there's a lot of them. Yeah, those are easier to move on from, because you feel like you can go get them again. And if there's no attachment to them, there's no emotional attachment to them. Yeah, it's easier to kind of sell them. But I think it is. I don't know. It's fun to have them too. And the catch and release part that's what I love about the catch and release phrase, is sometimes you just get it, you're looking at it like, this is great, man. Like, this card is really, really cool. I didn't know it looked this great. I'm really glad I bought it. Versus you get it and you're like, oh man, it's a refractor, but you can hardly even tell it's a refractor. I mean, this thing looks like, what is this?
Yeah.
So it's easier to kind of go, all right, I'm going to sell that, because it doesn't do anything for me. But so
I think honestly, for the ultra modern stuff, more of that game and more of what interests people. When people say like, oh man, I can't believe you're buying XYZ player who just started a year or two ago. I actually think that most of the adrenaline rush we'll use Wembanyama as an example, but you could use any player as an example, is can you get a nice looking raw card for him, right, and get a PSA 10? Because if you get a PSA 10, the difference in price between the 9s and the 10s, and let's assume it's, Silver Prism or numbered stuff, numbered cards for him, rookie cards, they're expensive. I'm doing this right now with Caitlin Clark. I've got a handful of Caitlin Clark cards that are PSA right now.
I like that.
And they didn't cost me, I mean, they're select, they're numbered, all of them. They cost me in the range of like $250 to $500 each. So they're kind of in like I'm not spending $10,000 on a raw card, but if they PSA 10, that $200 card might be a $1,000 card, and the $500 card might be a $2,000 card. So that I think a lot of people, the fun part of the prospecting is, can I get a 10? And if I get a 10, it's a jackpot.
What's that going to mean?
It's a jackpot. Yeah. And maybe you send a few and you get a few 9s. Maybe you keep the 9s and you sell the 10s. You know, there's a variety of different ways to handle that. But I think that's more of that's why I'm not saying that people are wrong to buy the brand new players, but I think it's more of a, can I get a 10 on this? Because if I get a 10, it's huge money. It's a liquid card. You know, I can sell Caitlin Clark stuff, and you know, there's people out there that are ready to eat that up.
It's interesting. I wanted to segue into this anyway, because now we're talking about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with making money in this hobby. I don't think there's anything wrong with making a buck. I don't think there's anything wrong with going, oh wow, I got a 10 of a Caitlin Clark. I now just 50%. I just made 50% on my investment, and someone else was going to want that because there's going to be someone else on there and go, oh, it's the end game. Someone's not going to want that. No. It's not that. What it is you have someone who buys that that PSA 10 card is going to now be able to buy that single in a PSA 10 hole. That is the key. That's what we want. You want to buy it in the PSA 10. There's people like me. I don't want to buy raw and grade. I'm grateful for people like Dustin buying the card and grading it, because now I can buy the PSA 10. I'll pay the premium because I don't want to take the chance.
And I'm in the same boat as you. I'll do the same thing. You know, I'll grade some, but I don't grade hundreds of cards a year or anything.
No,
I mean, I'll throw some out there to get graded, but I'm with you. If it's a card I really want, and I feel I can get a good value on the 10, then I try to buy it as a 10. So that game is a fun game, I think, on the ultra modern side. And Caitlin Clark obviously is just one example. I'm also in a weird spot too, where it's like, if I get all 9s, do I keep them? Do I sell them? But again, making those decisions on what we're doing with those cards is just kind of fun, because I also want to hold some of the Caitlin Clark stuff. I'm not in a rush to, you know, just grade them and sell them. I might, you know, sell one to pay for the rest or something like that. But that's kind of the idea. I think that's really, you know, on the ultra modern side, that's really the rush. It's the adrenaline of the possible for the PSA 10s and getting them out to market first. How many people are out there trying to get those cards first upon release, shipping them off, first to market, PSA 10, get big money for it.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about myself, like I'm thinking about getting into another, like, you know, Bowman prospect of a Mariner that I had and I sold, and I have a chance at maybe getting that particular card again, or a different like color variation of a Bowman Chrome Auto. And I'm actually excited about it. I kind of want to do that. But then I think about it kind of brings me back to this like ebb and flow that we all have. Some of us want to have some skin in the game. We want to have some fun with it. And there's nothing wrong. Everybody has a different lane, but sometimes we can be in different lanes at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that we shouldn't have any judgment towards anybody, really. Everybody should be able to just do what they want. Now, I guess from our last episode, it's more of it's not so much a cautionary tale, but just be mindful of what you're doing and the risks that's involved when you spend a considerable amount of money on a card like that. But I mean, it's kind of fun sometimes to buy the lotto ticket. Who doesn't like doing that? And it's not a lotto ticket where it's like you get this chance, you spend the money, and it is what it is. You got some room. You know, if you buy a player, he might have a down year, or maybe he takes some time to take off, and next thing you know, he's this great player, and you're like, wow, I'm glad I got him when I did. Or maybe some people start bailing on a guy. Maybe Wemby. People aren't bailing on Wemby. We're supposed to check that price on that. Actually, should probably do that. I don't know. I'll do that while you talk a little bit here. Let's find out what our over-unders
I think you actually just made a really interesting point too about the Mariners. You have a prospect on the Mariners because that's your team. I think we also should not discount people that are chasing prospects of the team that they love. And I've made this clear. You know, as much as I talk about prospecting, it's not it's not a thing for me to do a lot of. However, if the New Orleans Saints draft Arch Manning, whether it's next year or the year after that, not that I'm going to put, you know, tens of thousands of dollars into Arch Manning cards, but would I think it'd be really cool to have a few nice Arch Manning cards coming out if he's going to be our new franchise quarterback, because I'm also rooting like crazy for that team on Sundays. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. Now, of course, we talk about the anchoring and all that stuff, but you know, that's a little bit of a gamble to throw some money at the new quarterback that you're rooting for. I can see how people would want to do that as well. So for Wembanyama, there's a lot of Spurs fans out there, and maybe they're just diehard Spurs fans, so they want to have some Wemby cards, and that makes sense. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, obviously.
So what did we say? What was our number?
Oh, we were talking about sub 500. I said 600, and I think you said sub 500, and then we were joking at being $180.
Yeah, we're joking. We're wrong. The last sale on February 27th, 2025. Yesterday of a Victor Wembanyama Silver Prism rookie card PSA 10 number 136 was $734.22.
There you go. Still got believers out there.
So I was dead wrong.
Yeah, they did not sink like a stone.
They did not sink like a stone. So I think that's a really good point. I don't think that this reaction that we think people are having I don't think there was that reaction with Victor Wembanyama. And I'll tell you something. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch the Court of Gold documentary. It's on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. Court of Gold. It's produced by Barack Obama and his wife, and it is really cool. It's about the team, 2024 gold medal team in France, and I actually gained a lot more respect and admiration and excitement for Wembanyama. My son watched it with me. He's 7. He's like, that's my favorite player, Dad. Wemby's my favorite player now. So I'm actually really excited to see Wemby. I might actually go get a Wemby card. I don't know about a mass-produced card, maybe something off the beaten path, but I'm thinking about Wemby only because my son really loves them. We love the Spurs, obviously, because of David Robinson, because our Sonics got stolen from us a while back. So,
man, that would be a team to bring back with the OG.
They're coming.
I would love to have the Sonics in the league.
They're coming back. It's going to happen
with Sean Kemp as the coach and the glove.
And the glove. Yeah, no, they're going to come back.
I hope so.
Yeah, it was part of the reason why we got the Kraken and the Comet Pledge. But yeah, so the Spurs are a good team. He's into them. And obviously, watching that documentary, you just saw how amazing, talented, and dominant against NBA all-timers Wemby was. France was in the title game, and they got close. And Wemby was a force. They had the focus on him. He's a once-in-a-generation player. I think now is a good time if you want to pick up a Wemby. I don't think it's even a good time. I think people are just still holding on to him. So
yeah, see what happens.
I'm considering it. I'm not going to lie. I never thought I'd say that, but he looks good.
Yeah, I like the one highlight that really struck me is just watching him play defense. Really, like watching him play defense against Giannis. There was 2 plays in a row where he blocked Giannis on back-to-back plays underneath the basket, and it's weird watching Giannis look small on the court.
Oh yeah, he's just so tall.
And Giannis looks like a child trying to dunk on Wemby, and Wemby was just patient down there underneath the basket, waited for Giannis to pump fake and then go up, blocked him again.
Yeah,
and it's weird because think back, going back a few years, Giannis is this bull that nobody can stop, get out of his way, and Wembanyama makes these guys look like kids. It's weird. It's really weird. So I'm with you. I don't have any Wemby cards, but man, I really hope that he has a long career. He's fun to watch. The NBA needs him. Frankly, the NBA needs young stars. Steph Curry's still looking great. LeBron's still looking great, but they've got a couple of years left, and then we have to graduate on to the next crop.
So there you go. We just have to get together in person to shift gears on Wemby. There you go. That's all he needed to do. He just needed to come to Seattle to miss having the Sonics in the league. Have some coffee and get to see me. And
a lot of Starbucks.
A lot of great coffee places around here. Not named Starbucks, but yeah, Starbucks.
I tell you what, I've been trashing a lot on the new product pricing, and I don't like the breaks and repacks and all the gambling stuff. However, Topps, I think it's Series 1. The new Series 1, the Barry Bonds on-card auto cards.
That's a cool card.
They're throwbacks to like 1990 or 91 Topps.
90 Topps.
They're 90 Topps. Those cards
look good.
Badass. I'm like, and I'm not like, now to contrast to that, 2024 Topps Chrome Football, it's not licensed. They're sticker autos. They're player-worn patches. And one thing I really hope that changes, I guess, when they have the full licensing is I'm happy how they kind of labeled it out very clearly. It's player worn, but the sticker autos on everything, especially because it's going to be super Topps Chrome football and basketball and licensed stuff is going to be expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's going to be so damn expensive, like it can't be a shoddy product. So I hope that they switch that.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope they do. But you're right. I think it's going to be expensive. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get you to come home on breaking on this. But at least we got ourselves feeling good about Modern right now. We're feeling good about Wemby. I might get back into some baseball. wow, it's a nice spring. I mean, spring's kind of coming into into the Pacific Northwest here. We get Dustin coming here from North Carolina.
Supposedly it was going to rain all weekend. I show up, it's nothing but sunshine.
Nothing but sun. So Dustin brought the sun. Finally, we've been like in the rain and dark for the last like 3 or 4 months. That's why I've probably been so negative. There are some people like, DPZ so negative all the time. Well, I've been living in a cave up here for the last like 3 or 4 months, so it's been kind of depressing. Now that the sun's out, we're all feeling pretty good. We're into Wembies, we're into modern. Not breaking, but we're into the rest of it.
Although I was sleepless in Seattle last night. When I went to bed at 10:30 PST, I'm still on EST time. I woke up at 3 and I was wide awake. So I've been I was just staring at the wall for a couple hours.
You're tired now, buddy. Yeah, you're tired. It's tough. That time difference definitely gets you when you're so used to it and it's ingrained in you like that. It's tough, but yeah, no, I think. It was a fun. We'll probably just call this a 30. This is a good, fun little episode.
Little 30-minute pop.
30-minute pop, and we did it in person. So we wanted to memorialize the fact that we're hanging out and throw an episode out for you guys. And we're also going to talking about. I mean, Dustin's opening up to the idea. Maybe we do a live at some point and make it kind of fun to have you guys on there talking to us live as we talk. I used to do a bunch of live stuff with Jeremy Lee at the Taking Stock stuff, but
we might even. I actually didn't bring this up to you, but maybe we throw around a call-in portion of this. So we go live and then. Maybe we kind of share in advance when we're going to go live.
Yeah.
And then if there's a call-in person that maybe we'll start with people we know so that we don't get any sort of crazy on the stream. But, I think a call-in portion of the show would be kind of fun.
Let us know what you think about that. Would you want to see that?
Tell us in the comment section. You join the call with us and we talk through whatever weekly topic it is.
Yeah, I gotta visit Dustin now, fly across the country and do another episode like that. But between now and then, maybe we think about doing a call in. That's people don't do that. I mean, I think that's the one thing in the hobby. I mean, every now and then people do a live and they add people in here and there that I know that Jeremy does a show where he brings people on all the time and it has a little rotating thing.
Yeah.
But what like an actual show where we can taking pop.
And which guests would you like? Whether that's hobby people, viewers. Who would you like to see on? I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, we can kind of do that, and where we could just have a show with just you and I, and then you, the people that actually watch, can jump on. And we can like bring you onto the screen, and you can start. We can have a little quick conversation. Everybody gets like 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Keep it quick, and then it could be like a sports card or a sports talk radio show where people call in. And those are always the most
What's that show where there's a timer on the side? You're talking about a topic for a minute or something. Maybe we have like a 2 or 3 minute timer. People come in. If we have enough people that want to do it.
It's with Wilpon.
Pardon the interruption or something like that.
Pardon the interruption. Yeah, and Wilpon and Kornheiser, and then that stuff is what I think. Maybe we're onto something, man. You just got to come out here more often.
We'll try it. Yeah, maybe we'll try it out. We'll think on it. Let us know in the comments section.
Yeah, would it be fun? You enjoy it, or you think it'd be a complete us show?
Yeah, probably that. But
probably that. So right on, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. This was fun. It's really hot in this office, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for listening and comment below. We're feeling really good about the hobby right now. Modern cards too. Anyway, catch and release. It's okay. It's okay.
Catch and release.
It's okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.